Well, the book of Lamentations is a tragic book in many ways for us as we think about reading our Old Testament and looking at God's story. Lamentations is a eulogy. It's a funeral dirge, a collection of poems about the city of Jerusalem and its fall to Babylonia, and the fact that the people suffered greatly under Babylonian oppression, and many were killed in that invasion. The temple was destroyed. Kingship was broken, and there was no longer rule by Davidic monarchs in Judah. So there's just a lot going on in Lamentations that reminds of destruction and death, and divine presence was part of that. That is, God abandoned his people in one sense. The prophet Ezekiel saw that. He saw a vision of God's presence leaving the temple, and that chariot vision is there. There's also great hope in that vision because God's presence was on a throne that was carried by a chariot. And that chariot indicates God's mobility, and God could move with his people into exile. So there's also hope in that vision of Ezekiel, as well as some despair as we see God leave his temple specifically because of idolatry. And that's Ezekiel's vision. Lamentations is going to bring that expression of grief over the loss of the city, the loss of human life, the loss of kingship, the loss of temple and God's presence. But we need to remember that there's always a general presence of God in his created order and in his work with his people. And Psalm 139 reminds us of that. The psalmist says, "Where can I flee from your presence, O Lord?" Well, I can't. Right? It's a rhetorical question. I can't. You're always there. So we like to think about God's general presence in one sense, his special presence in another. And one of the highlights, I think, one of the issues for us as we deal with Second Temple, as we deal with return from Babylonia, there will be a Second Temple. And the book of Zechariah has a vision of a rider on a horse waiting to re-enter the city. God's presence will come back. God's Spirit will be there and empower the people. And so this tragic piece of history, as we think about Lamentations and its commemoration of the destruction of Jerusalem and all that that meant, is also going to find its fulfillment, so to speak, or its restoration, perhaps, as we deal with the Second Temple and God's return to his temple site and to that place where he's established his name for his people, and, in a sense, restore his presence among them. And so Lamentations is an important study and a rich one as we think about this theology of both divine abandonment and divine presence.